Oh my goodness. Well, I just arrived in Kampot. I did not think I was gonna make it. Oh. Hello my gorgeous people, Grace here, Macedonia. I am in Cambodia and it has been a couple of days. I tell you what, by last night I needed a cup of tea and a lie down. So it all started off pretty well. Picked up my bike from my friend Steve. I ride away. Everything's brilliant. I've got brand new Moscow Moto luggage to put on the bike and everything is shiny and new. I've got nice new tires on the bike and I've got a plan to go to Kampot because there's a race this weekend, an enduro race. And so I'm super excited. Everything is awesome. And then the engine overheat light comes on. And this is not a good thing. So, of course, everyone and everything in Cambodia is overheating at the moment. It is hot as hell. But, of course, the KTM runs hotter than the sun, and you do not want that getting any hotter than it should be. So, I stopped the bike, I let it cool down a bit, opened up the radiator, no coolant, bone dry. And so I started pouring water in. The water started pouring out, and anyway, I managed to pour enough water in that we got to the mechanic without the bike overheating. So that was a win. I said, check, please do your magic, please fix my radiator, I can't afford a new one. And check did his magic. So I cooled my heels for a couple of days, which I hadn't planned on, but you get that. Cooled my heels for a couple of days in my little room near the red light district, and then I get a message from Czech and the message just says, okay. So I go down to see Czech and there we go. He's done his magic. He's fixed the radiator and I am absolutely stoked. I am like, you are a god. Thank you, Czech. And indeed he is. So it was just a couple of little holes in the radiator, nothing catastrophic, fixed up, beautiful, good to go. I thought we were good to go. But unfortunately, my clutch had different ideas. So I have previously replaced the clutch sleeve on this bike and the clutch master cylinder on this bike. It's a hydraulic clutch, right? So this is the 2012 KTM 690 Enduro, so it's still running the Magura hydraulic clutch. And these are kind of notorious for having problems. And the reason that people reckon the slave cylinder keeps failing is because these bikes run so hot. And so the seals inside your slave cylinder, the seals, they get toasted and they die. Anyway, so a long time ago, maybe 35,000 kilometers ago, I put an Oberon slave cylinder on this one and I was good until this point. But yesterday I rode out of Czech's shop and I was like, I'm going to go see my friends down at Bike and Nature. And so that's a motorcycle shop and it's only a few kilometers away from Czech's place. So I said, before I go to Kampot, I'm going to go to Bikes and Nature and say hello to the guys. I rock up there, my clutch is not feeling right. And so I think, better go back to check and make sure it's all right before I head to Kampot. Anyway, so I'm on my way to check. I get about halfway and then no clutch, nothing. Cannot stop the bike without stalling. And so suddenly I am in the middle of crazy Phnom Penh traffic. I cannot stop the bike without stalling the bike. Once I stall the bike, getting it started again is going to involve some kind of rolling maneuver, which again is not very practical in Phnom Penh traffic. Everything is crazy. There are no rules and everyone's doing their thing. So on one hand, this is really good because I couldn't stop. So things like stop signs and stoplights, you know, you find a gap in the traffic. Unfortunately, everyone else is doing the same thing. So sometimes you just get to a point where you've got to grab the brakes. And I was clutchless shifting. I was doing fine. I got within about 500 meters of Czech shop when someone really cut me off and I just had to grab the brakes and then the bike was dead. And I just wasn't in a position where I could do a rolling start with no clutch. So I had to walk. So blazing sun, wearing my helmet, wearing my armor, wearing my motocross boots. I'm trudging through the streets of Phnom Penh, traffic everywhere, pushing this bike on my own. Good times, sweating buckets. Anyway, eventually I managed to get to checks. I'm like, check, I have no clutch, help me. And they take it apart and they look at it and they say, listen, the seal in your clutch slave is toast, and so it's letting all the fluid leak into the engine, and that's why you're losing hydraulic pressure. And that made me very miserable, because the problem with those seals is that you're not going to get a new seal, and you're not going to get a new clutch slave for a bike like this in Cambodia. And when you think about how long it takes to order, how expensive it is to order, and the customs duty you have to pay and the shipping you have to pay to get a piece this big for this bike in Cambodia, this is no joke. And so I was just watching all of my plans for the next month, the next 2 months go straight out the window. And so that was miserable. Anyway, Czech said, look, we're going to do our best. So he got out his selection of Cambodia special O-rings, and he did a Cambodia special repair. And I tried again. So I took off and I was heading back to where I was staying, back to the riverside. And I got nearly there, and then the police had closed off all these streets, and so we were in this heavy traffic. It was really hot. We were all going around in circles, and no one knew where to go. And suddenly I have no clutch again. And so by the time I got back to the riverside, I just ground to a halt. No clutch, zero clutch. Stuck again. And this time I was a long way from the mechanics. So really, really not a good day, and I was exhausted. You know, you can't give up, so there was another mechanic just around the corner, a different guy. So I went down there, I pushed my bike a couple more blocks, sweating buckets again. All the people on the sidewalk are looking at me, and then they see that the bike's not running, and they start pointing me towards the mechanics. They're like, oh, there's a mechanic down that way. And I'm like, thank you. And I push and I push, and I get down to the mechanic. And by the time I get down to the next mechanic, down to Dara, the bike has cooled off. And suddenly I have hydraulic pressure again. What the hell? And so Dara said, look, he said, there might have just been an air bubble. And I said, yes, but this has happened twice today. And when the bike gets hot, I have no clutch. And he said, yeah, but there's clutch now, so I don't really know what I can do to repair it. He said, we have this problem a lot with the KTMs, not just with the big dual sports like this, but with the 2008 sort of era of the KTM dirt bikes. And he said, nobody really knows what the deal is. But yeah, sometimes they get hot, you lose your clutch, and then when it cools down, it comes back, and it's intermittent. And I was like, head explode, right? Because the one thing I really need this bike to be is kind of reliable. I need to know whether I'm going to get stuck in the middle of some dodgy place in the middle of Phnom Penh. But you can't always have what you want. And so anyway, I said, I need to go to Camp Hot because I'm going to go racing. And Dara said, listen, we're heading down tomorrow. I said, look, if you see me stuck beside the road, you know, stop and help me. And he said, look, don't worry, because the road to Camp Hot, if you take the main road, it's just a straight road. You just keep riding the whole way. You don't need your clutch. You only need your clutch to get out of Phnom Penh. And it's true. I said, all right, you're right. I can make it to Camp Hot without my clutch. So I take off, and for the first 11 kilometers, it's just traffic jams through Phnom Penh. It's so hot, there's traffic everywhere, stopping and starting, and my clutch is just failing progressively more and more. And I'm trying not to stop. I'm trying to make sure I can always keep going, just shift up, shift down, shift up, shift down. And anyway, I made it. I clutchless shifted all the way to Camp Hot. And so this morning the bike is cool. and I have hydraulic pressure again, and I have no idea how long that hydraulic pressure is going to last, which is a real problem for me. When I said I needed a cup of tea and a lie down, I absolutely was not kidding. All that riding around, clutchless shifting, and wondering if I was going to be stuck in the middle of nowhere, it takes it out of you, I tell you. So here I am, having my lie down. I didn't get a cup of tea. There's no hot water, which is a bit of a tragedy, but you know, sometimes life be like that. Anyway, at this point, this is probably the point at which a whole bunch of geniuses are going to chime in and tell me that the reason I have problems with my motorcycle is because I bought the wrong motorcycle, and I should have bought insert whatever motorcycle they happen to like / own. And all I have to say to that is it doesn't matter what motorbike you buy, as if you ride it around the world in dodgy conditions for 100,000 kilometers, some bits are going to wear out. And, you know, you can tell me that I should have bought a DR650 or something. Good luck getting parts for a DR650 around here as well. And you can tell me that I should have had a CRF 250, and I probably could get parts for a CRF 250, but then I'd have a CRF 250. The takeaway here is if you travel around for long enough, I don't care if you do it on a motorbike, you do it on a bicycle, you do it on foot, it doesn't matter how you do it, you're going to have problems sooner or later. It could be a problem with your motorbike, could be a problem with your paperwork, could be a problem with your visa. I don't know, you get robbed, you run out of money, or, you know, something goes wrong. There's always going to be a bunch of stuff that goes wrong because life is like that. And the takeaway here is you can either be super miserable about stuff going wrong and, you know, engage with all these people who are going to, you know, they're going to pop up and tell you, oh, it's all your fault that something bad happened to you, because people are like that. Or you can look at it and say, I am having this problem because I am also having this amazing experience. So if I wasn't riding my motorbike around the world on this cool ass motorbike as well, like I love my 690, it is a rad bike. If I wasn't riding around the world on this cool ass bike, having an amazing time, having these incredible experiences in out of the way places, I wouldn't have this problem. If I stayed home and made a sandwich, I wouldn't have this problem. But I would be at home making a sandwich. And if you ask me, that sounds like a problem. Anyway, so that's where I'm at. I'm having my lie down. I'm not having my cup of tea, but I still have plenty to tell you because the drama is not over yet.